Hello everyone, this is Satan's Child to do another film review today. This is my second film review, and the film I'm reviewing today is Slaughtered Vomit Dolls by Lucifer Valentine. This is actually one of my favourite films. This film is easily in my top 50 favourite films, which is saying a lot considering I'm a really big movie buff and I watch films all the time. So here is the movie. This is the original Kingdom of Hell release that I'm really proud that I own. That I also have the Unearthed Films release, which is also a pretty cool release. It's got a few more extras than the Kingdom of Hell release, but I have to say I'm really proud that I own this edition, since it's got so many little neat extra things that come with it, as well as being a very rare collector's item. I'm very proud I own this release. This is one of my favourite DVDs in my collection. Now anyway, to the film itself. The film is basically about a girl called Angela Aberdeen, whose basically life has fallen apart. Basically she turned to prostitution, drugs, alcohol. She burned down her neighbourhood church when she was 13 or 14, I believe, and basically her life has just descended into stripping, prostitution, drug abuse, and all that. And the film is very nightmarish, surreal, beautiful, and amazing. It's got lots of gore and vomit, which is always nice. Basically, it's got a lot more to it than just that. It's basically about the downfall of her life, and she dreams and hallucinates certain different personas of herself being killed, or basically being abused. For example, when you actually see victims in this film, they aren't really their own people. They're actually her, Angela Aberdeen. She's imagining herself being basically destroyed, vomiting and gore and all these terrible things happening to her. The film has got very unique sound design and editing that adds a lot to it, in my opinion. It's just those things alone make the film very powerful, very brutal, very surreal, and just an excellent film. I love the dialogue in this film. There's some really meaningful dialogue lines like, "I don't know what's left of me, but you can fuck it if you want." And basically, "You're my only friend, you're the only friend I've got." You know, because basically she makes a pact with Satan, which is a pact with her imaginary friend, Lucifer Valentine, that she created because she's in this hellish existence and there's no one that's going to help her. She's just on this downward spiral of drug abuse, prostitution, sadness, loneliness. Basically, anytime you see her talking to someone, that's basically her imagining Lucifer Valentine, because there is no one there. There's no one that's going to help her. Her life is spiraling out of control, and just everything's coming to an end for her. There's going to be some spoilers in this review, so I hope you don't mind that. Anyway, some of the gore scenes in this are absolutely amazing. This is one of my favourite ones. Pig executed. Basically, there's a really good eyeball gouging scene that just goes on and on. It's just so brilliant in the way it's done. The blood looks brilliant. The eye gouging itself looks brutal. But this is leading up to the first vomit gore scene in cinema history. I mean, of course, there's been films with vomit and gore and combinations made before this as well, but you know, there's no one ever really called their film vomit gore before Lucifer Valentine did, and actually called it a genre of film. So yeah, it's technically the first vomit gore scene within that genre, I should say. Basically, once her eyes gets gouged out, she goes searching for her eyes, which are on this table, a clear glass table. She crawls over to it, screaming and everything, but then she sticks her fingers down her throat and pukes on her own eyeballs. But what's really beautiful and stylish about this scene is that the camera pans up through the eyes, through to her, and as she vomits on them, it's just very stylish. It's very symbolic of the viewers getting their eyes vomited on, basically. and I just think that scene's very brutal, stylish, amazing. I think this film has a lot of many different good qualities to it, and I have to say it's just a very stylish film. Yes, as I was going to say, there's other stylish scenes, like the girl, Miss Pussy Pants, I believe her name is, when she gets her throat slit and the blood runs all over her body. That scene's very beautiful and sexy. Basically, as she does this dance of death, basically, because as she's dying in slow motion, it's just a lot of the sound design and visuals and the way it's done is just extremely beautiful. And I really love that scene. There's basically, it's a film that mixes a lot of genres, I would say. It's a film that, I would say, if you're into transgressive art films, surreal, experimental cinema, extreme gore films, vomit films, all that, it mixes all that in, and I think it does it beautifully. It's a very nightmarish, beautiful, sexual, sad, dark, satanic film. And I just love it. I just love all those elements. They come together perfectly. There's also there's some really brilliant black and white nightmarish visuals in this film. It just goes together really brilliantly. I would say it falls into the same sort of category as stuff like, extreme art house and surreal films and all that is in transgressive arts. Stuff like Necromantic 1 and 2, Dare to Desking, Mondo Weirdo, A Trip to Paranoia Paradise, Singapore Sling, Subconscious Cruelty, that sort of Submit to Me Now by Richard Kern, that sort of extreme art sort of stuff. And a lot of people will probably just dismiss it as, oh, it's just crap cinema, because this film gets attacked a lot, but, it's one of my favourite films, and I love it. So, but everyone's got their own opinions about this one, just like every other film, but, every film has people making up their different opinions, and I think this film can be looked upon in many different ways, because it can work as just an exploitation film or just a gore film or a vomit film, but it can also work as a deep, meaningful film about the tragedies of what happened to a young girl in her life and the sadness that involves that. It revolves around that. So I think it can actually, to me, it mixes all those things and does it perfectly. I actually get the sad film about like a runaway young woman whose life just basically turned to shit. I also enjoy it for the gore factor and the nudity and the vomit and all the sexualization of it, because this is a very sexy film, as well as it being very dark, sad, bleak. It's just powerful on so many levels, and I definitely think this is one of my favourite films ever. It's just very underrated, and sorry about that, my video cut off there, I'll just have to edit this in. Yeah, as I was saying, it's just one of my favourite films ever. It's very underrated, and I think it can be liked and watched on for many different reasons. So basically, I'm going to get back to the film in a minute. I'm just going to show this edition here, the Kingdom of Hell edition of Slaughtered Vomit Dolls, which I'm really happy that I own. It comes in a really neat slipover. This is the infamous Pact to Satan that's recited in the film. I love that scene. It's also, here's the part that came with the Kingdom of Hell release. You've got a Kingdom of Hell sticker here. You've got all these really nice drawings. There's one, Satan Commands Me. It's really beautiful artwork. And of course, all this disc artwork. I've also, if you're wondering where the poster is, I'm just going to get to it. I've actually got the poster up here on my wall. Sorry about covering the nudity, but there's all these crappy policies against nudity. I hate censorship, but like proudly beside my Subconscious Cruelty poster. Yes, I love this poster. I'm proud to have this up on my wall. Anyway, basically, back to the film now that I've showed my Kingdom of Hell release. Basically, I think, like I said before, the film can work on many different levels for many different reasons. I think this is one of those films that's basically up to the viewer to interpret it. I mean, everyone has their own opinion of what it means, what it doesn't mean. Is it just cheap shock values. It's actually got a deep, meaningful plot, and I think it depends on what the viewer gets from it, really. I mean, there is definitely things put there. There's definitely the gore factor, the vomit factor. There's definitely the meaningful dialogue that actually shows this girl falling apart. So there's definitely all that there. It's just how you interpret it, you know? For me, like I said before, I interpret it as a deep, sad, dark, surreal, experimental, art house, transgressive arts, extreme gore, horror, vomit film that mixes all those genres, and maybe even a bit of dark drama when you think about it. Although it's not, it's very like a surreal, dream-like, nightmarish film where it doesn't follow a linear story, and I actually think that's a good thing, because to me, if the film actually followed a linear story, that would actually ruin it. You know, like if Hollywood remade it and made it all slick and all that, it would just be, with a plot that overly explains everything, it would just be stupid. That would just be annoying, because what's the point in it? You know, the film's perfect the way it is. So yeah, I get all these things from the film. I love it on all those levels. I like on the sexualization, of course, because I just love all the things in it. It's a very brilliantly made film. I also have to say there's a scene where Hank Skinny, if you don't know who he is, he's like the big puke guy in all these films, is vomiting into a mug, re-drinking it. There's another scene where they saw open a guy's head and he starts eating the brains and vomiting into the brains and everything. It's just brilliantly done. I have to say, this has got to be a spoiler, but you kind of already know there's got to be spoilers in this review, that near the end, Angela Aberdeen drowns herself in a bathtub, which is a very sad scene, because you see basically her remembering back to her childhood. This is actually constantly shown throughout the film, her on TV as a child saying she wants to be the best singer in the world and all that, which also makes you feel very sad for the character, because she was a child at one time who was happy, who was singing, who was laughing, and basically she didn't know that this was going to happen in her life later on. That her life was just going to fall apart and turn to shit, basically. And it actually makes you feel really sad and bad for the character, and it just makes you want to actually help her, but there's nothing you can do. So basically, as she's drowning herself, you see her like flashbacks to her childhood, and the drowning scene's very sad, but also very stylishly done. It's just brilliant the way it's directed, I have to say. I'm trying to think other things to cover. There's so much to cover in this film. I just love it so much. There's the second murder, where it's all black and white and the girl's chained to the heater. That is very brutal and just an amazing scene. It's just very stylishly and nightmarishly done. It's just very brutal. Other dialogue scenes is Ameara Lavey explain how she burned down her neighbourhood church. That dialogue scene's in the film, but then they replay that scene later on. It's sort of jumbled up and edited in a certain way that I really love. I really love that. It's also followed by a black and white nightmarish scene of some of the things that have happened in the film, but that actually seems really hellish, dark and beautiful visually, and audio as well. That's just absolutely stunning, I have to say. So yeah, the film is a very dark film, but also in a strange way a very beautiful film also. And I definitely recommend it to people who like extreme cinema, gore films, vomit films, transgressive art films, experimental, surreal cinema. So yes, this definitely is a masterpiece in my opinion. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Feel free to drop me a comment anytime. I'll see you later.